Is King Charles ripping us off? He is due to get a 45% increase, which is quite, well, it's significant, in his royal stipend by 2025. Now, during a cost of living crisis, is this the best look, really, for the monarchy? But if the Crown Estates are doing well, this is the alternative view, and our sovereign is busy at work, is it something we should really bother about? Everyone needs an income, don't they, Reem?
Everyone does need an income. Of course, the king is a very important part of our British tradition and our history. The monarch as an institution, I think, is something that is incredibly valuable. I mean, 45% definitely not in line with inflation. It's more than what the unions are asking for, at least anyway, and that's really saying something. I think that when we're thinking about the sort of economic impact that the monarchy has overall, we've got to remember, of course, the sort of impact they have on tourism, which is incredible. Also, I mean, the Crown Estate, thanks to one of the kings that didn't want to they had this deal with the Prime Minister, effectively all the profits from the Crown Estate does go to the Treasury, which is spent on public services. So the argument against any kind of pay rise for the king would be based on the idea that we need more money for public services, which I, of course, think we do not need that money for.
Well, there we go. Cut the public services. And you're quite relaxed with money going to the royal family because you believe that they probably, on balance, bring in far more to our country in terms of national pride, tourism, etc., etc. Mark, however, I did put to our viewers and listeners, what would you privatise, what would you nationalise? Mark said, privatise the royal family. Paul, is that one privatisation you'd agree with?
Well, I'm scrapping it rather than privatising it actually would be a better thing.
You are squeaking like Billio on that chair.
I know, we're going to need to change it, Julie, but I might grab your one instead. I think the optics are terrible. We're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. People are really struggling to make ends meet. You've got interest rates going up and people are going to be really finding it difficult to pay their mortgages. You've got real wages that are falling year on year. And whatever the kind of technical arguments for how the Crown and the monarchy is funded, and whatever justification can be made for that, the reality is that people out there are going to see that as one rule for them and one rule for everybody else. And I think it's going to play into the arguments that people often recite with justification, in my view, that the royal family is too bloated, actually. You know, there are probably too many properties, there are probably too many hangers-on. And if we're going to have a royal family, and I would be in favour of a republic personally, I think we should be allowed to elect our head of state like other grown-up countries do. But if we are going to have a royal family, at least bring it into line with some of the European monarchies, places like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, where they are much more streamlined. I think
that is true. A lot of European monarchies are much more streamlined and they do cost the taxpayer, cost the country far less. But I would say that we are special in Britain and perhaps we merit a more expensive monarchy. I don't know if that's a popular opinion. Who knows? I'm just throwing it out there. But it's quite interesting how royal funding is decided. It's tied to the profits, to a percentage of the profits of the Crown Estate. Now, it is 25%, I believe, at the moment. It is dropping to 12%. But because the Crown Estate has been making higher profits, it will increase that number quite dramatically. And this is because, for example, the Crown Estate is allowing land to be used for wind turbines and the like. They're leasing out land and they're making a profit off it. And they say, the Buckingham Palace spokesperson says that the sovereign grant has remained flat at 86 million for several years, which he said was a real terms cut. So there you go, considered against inflation. We're all having to squeeze. We're all having to squeeze our belts.
Get them out on a picket line.
She also said that the increase that is due, that is coming down the road in 2025, will be spent on renovating and improving Buckingham Palace. So there you go.
There you go. I do think it's interesting that they've actually said that it's a real terms pay cut. That's quite funny. I think we've got to remember that 25% is what the royal family receive. If we were to privatise or abolish, as you say, the royal family, the Crown Estate would still be there. So we wouldn't be able to build wind turbines on it that are publicly funded. We wouldn't be able to do many of the things that we do with the Crown Estate. And all of that money would no longer go to the Treasury. So technically, we don't actually pay anything as taxpayers.
Well, I could talk about this all day and we'll come to your views in just a moment, but we're going to have a quick look at the weather.